live graphically sensual. They will assault your senses. They are incorporated. They will bend your mind, shatter your sanity, and seal your fate. Lethal Ladies Inc. Try us on for size. We will take your breath away.
Watching movies, we forget chick, and the gang, funny, strange, hysterical, or just plain bad. This weekend just got amazing. It's a watch-along weekend. Horror and sci-fi, comedy and more. We got it all this weekend. This weekend just got amazing. It's a watch-along weekend. Horror and sci-fi, comedy and more. We got it all this weekend.
Hey, gang, and welcome to our second watch along because this is a watch along weekend. Last night, if you missed it, never fear, you can still watch it on the replay. There was a watch along for Madman. So tonight's movie, if you didn't know, is Dazed and Confused. And this is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's also a favorite summertime movie. It's supposed to take place the year I was born, so I wouldn't even remember what things were like in 1976. But my parents would have. They were 2 years out of high school at this point, so things may have changed slightly, but it was probably pretty much the same. Now, I did see where somebody had kind of give a semi review of Dazed and Confused, and they said this movie was ridiculous because high school was never like that anywhere. So I don't know how this person was. I don't know if they grew up in the 1970s, or if it was one of these, and I'm not, trying to give younger people a hard time. I don't know. Um, Now I know there wasn't hazing at my high school, you know, but who am I to say how high schools were in other places or how high schools were in 1976? I'm from a very small town, and my parents grew up in the same small town. So there was not hazing going on. But who are we to say that hazing didn't go on in high school just the same way it would in colleges? Um, so I don't know what they were referring to that was so ridiculous about this. I mean, I'm sure there were people smoking marijuana back in the 70s. These kids are smoking marijuana. They're playing mailbox baseball. And, I don't get that. But anyway, I was just surprised to see such a, um, I thought that was a ridiculous comment personally, but everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I'm just not sure what somebody meant by that. So I've always liked the movie. Steve likes this movie. We always wanted to go back to Texas and see well, we actually wanted to go when they were having some kind of Dazed and Confused special thing. I don't even know if they have that now. I know for like the 10th anniversary, they did. But this movie came out in 1993. And we're in 2025 now. So it's been quite a few years. These people have gotten older that are in here. Some of them were only 18 years old when they were in this. Um, and, some people were in their early to mid 20s. At least one person was in their late 20s, but they were apparently one of those people that looked younger than they were. Sorry, I'm having to slide up my glasses here. But um, this movie also has fantastic music in it, a fantastic soundtrack, which unfortunately I'm not able to play for you guys and gals because YouTube again would ding me for that. Okay, so we're going to get started with this movie here in just a few minutes, but I want to see if a few more people come in here. But I do have my Blu-ray queued up. 56 seconds in, the Gramercy Pictures logo is up on the screen. Now, if you don't have your own copy of it, this is the Criterion release. This is actually the 4K release, but it comes with a Blu-ray as well, which is what I have to watch back here at my computer desk. So if you don't own your own copy, if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it on Amazon Prime, or you can buy or rent it off of YouTube. Or you can just, hang out in here and have me, listen, or listen to me as I talk about the movie. And there may be some of you that have seen this enough times that you about have it memorized and don't, need to be watching it as I'm talking about. You can, literally visualize these things. And again, I would love to be able to stream these things for you guys and gals. However, again, YouTube will not allow me to do that. And I know some people say, well, don't use StreamYard and don't use YouTube and stuff like that. Use, do something else. Do Vaughn Live and stream it, or, something to that effect. But the honest truth is, folks, I like StreamYard. I like how it's set up. I've gotten used to using it. And, Vaughn Live's great and everything. And I know you can also put things on archive.org, but you kind of have to be crafty about how you put things on archive.org. And Steve told me you were supposed to be able to stream those and watch them from archive.org. Or was it archive.org? I don't know. Shoot. I'm not meaning archive.org, am I don't know. I just lost those two people because I had one of those confused moments. Um, Maybe it is archive.org. I don't know. I'll have to get back with y'all on that. And my signal is going up and down, and apparently this signal strength shows up all the time on StreamYard now, or it is for me, because we reset the AT&T modem today, or Steve told me he did. So hopefully I'm not choppy. Hopefully it's not buffering on your side or anything like that. I don't know why with fiber internet I can't get an excellent connection anymore. Why I have a fairly good connection. That just doesn't make sense to me. But maybe it's just StreamYard. I don't know. But anyways, if you've got Amazon Prime, you can watch it on Amazon Prime. If you want to just rent it for like $3.99 from YouTube, you can do that as well. In case y'all wonder why I'm eating, I did next on my. I've ate half of this one. These are Jason cookies that I made and put royal icing on them. Are very good. If I did make them myself. Um, and I put little edible uh, sprinkles on it to simulate like blood splatters on Jason's hockey mask. But there's a good recipe for roll out sugar cookies that you can use to, with cookie cutters and make different shapes and stuff like that. So, um, I may next year, because I don't know if there's another Friday the 13th this year. I want to say no, but next year on a particular Friday the 13th, I want to maybe make these for a movie munchies for Friday the 13th. All right. What else have we got before we get to this movie? Of course, I'm hoping to have a horror movie rewind. I got to get prepared for that. I'm going to premiere horror movie rewind tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, hopefully. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we should have some. Hopefully, I can have They're All Messed Up on Thursday. I have a dentist appointment to have a cleaning and x-rays done, but this gal knows she's going to have some work eventually done on her teeth. So hopefully, one, I'll be able to get back in time to prepare for They're All Messed Up and to be able to actually do They're All Messed Up. She says they're not going to do anything to me that day, but he said he's never went to the dentist where they've had to do any kind of work, and where they did it same day. They always say, okay, here are the issues, and we'll take care of these when you come back. But I went to one dentist, the dentist that tortured me, that I would come in for x-rays, and they would say, oh, we got to take care of this right now. And Steve said, well, they were just crazy. But anyways, hopefully Tuesday I'll be able to do a Dick Specs. Wednesday, Cannon Fodder, and Thursday, They're All Messed Up. There will definitely not be a Friday Foolish this week because I have to work a late Friday. Sorry, gang. I don't know what's going on here. Darcy. Hold on, gang. Gory Tiger, I'm going to take myself out of the stream and check and see what's going on because I don't want the dogs to wake up Steve. He's already asleep. So I will be right back. All right. Sorry, folks. I don't know. She was barking at something outside on the street or the sidewalk or whatever. I don't know. I think she would bark at a leaf. I just I just don't know. Um, but anyway, back to what I was talking about. Saturday and Sunday will not be a watch along weekend, but you can still vote on the ones I've got up for the following weekend, which I can tell you what's in the lead right now. So for Saturday, June 28th, Dawn of the Dead is blowing the other two movies out of the water. And this is the original George Romero Dawn of the Dead. Basket Case is in second place and Kingdom of the Spiders in third. The movie choices for Sunday, June 29th, which, by the way, is my brother's birthday, National Lampoon's Vacation is winning with Fatal Attraction in second place and Play Misty for Me in third. So if you want to have any say so in the movies that I pick for the watch alongs, then be sure to get your votes in now rather than later. So that you can say, well, I voted and, had my say so. Hopefully, I won't be eating on this cookie the whole time. I'm about to finish it. But movie roulette is in full effect because this watch along is a live stream. It does count. And how do you play movie roulette? Well, you can give a $5 or more super chat. And if you do that, you can pick any movie of your choosing for me to watch and do a review of for an upcoming episode of Movie Roulette. So Menelect, I owe him a Movie Roulette coming up because, and thank you, sir, for your generous super chats both times. Movie Roulette's Movie Roulette. Menelect's picks, I swear, I have not had anything other than soft drinks and energy drinks to drink today, and I cannot talk. But Menelect's picks are What We Do in the Shadows and Missing from 2023, which I don't even think I'd heard of that one, so I'm excited to watch that. All right, so Poe is going to be joining me tonight. Jello Steve usually joins me for movies that he doesn't really care for. So he loves Dazed and Confused. So Poe's going to join me tonight. Poe, contacted me and said, hey, can I join you for Dazed and Confused? As with a lot of movies, he loves them.
Love this movie.
See, told you. Okay, so he will probably be periodically showing up as we go along throughout Dazed and Confused. So, again, for those of you that may have just joined me, I am queued up on the Gramercy Pictures logo about 56 seconds in on the Criterion Blu-ray. And I'm going to give everybody a minute or two that's going to be watching along tonight to get queued up, and then we're going to do the countdown and get started. So I hope everybody had a fun Friday the 13th and that you celebrated in style. I did a movie munchies for Voorhees Burgers and Jason Fingers, and y'all can check that out if you haven't taken a look at it yet. It is a pre-recorded video, so be sure to check that out. I've got some birthday unboxings. I've got last week's Dick's Picks, cannon fodder. They're all messed up. A lot of stuff on the channel that you can feel free to check out. Because I know everybody can't always be on here when I do a live stream, right? And also, I want to remind everybody, if you ever want to join me live on some of these live streams, like I said, the only prerequisite that I have is that you behave yourself, which means you don't start taking your clothes off on camera. You don't start showing certain body parts that you shouldn't be showing in public. And then tell me it was an accident later. And believe it or not, I've had those things happen. Also, don't be mean and disrespectful to me, anyone in the chat, or anyone else that may be live on the stream. I don't think that's too much to ask to be on here. Yeah. Right, Batman. Batman says the more you grow older, the more rules are going to try to get you to fall. You just got to keep living. Libin. Yeah, which is a quote from Matthew McConaughey's character of Wooderson, which Steve actually got me a movie Maniacs figure of Wooderson. It's a limited edition. Now I have it at my desk. I'm not going to take it down right now because it has my monkey popcorn bucket sitting on top of it. All right. So if you come in later, I can always give you a timestamp if need be. So we're going to go ahead and do the countdown for those of you that are in here now. And we're going to get this party started. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Press play. And also, by the way, I hope that all you dads out there had a fantastic Father's Day. I called and wished my dad a happy Father's Day because I couldn't be there with him today. And for those of you that have lost your dad, I, you know, I respect that, and I hope that you are able to wish them a heavenly Father's Day. And I'm not trying to beat religion into anybody's head at all. It's just I hope you have your own way to celebrate, even if your dad is no longer here on this earth with you. So I saw people, wishing happy Father's Day to their dads who have passed on. And I think that's a fantastic tribute. And even if you're a fur baby dad, that counts too in my eyes. So all of you dads, whether you have human babies or you have furry babies or maybe you have scaly babies or whatever, I hope that you've had a wonderful Father's Day and were able to celebrate it in style, because it was not only a Friday the 13th weekend, but it was Father's Day weekend as well. And today is Father's Day. And so happy Father's Day to all you dads out there. Okay, so let's get back to the movie. The movie is still showing the credits, and we're seeing the kids in the hall. And I would probably have to ask my parents, did these styles match, 1976 styles? My parents graduated high school in 1974. And we're getting introduced to the main characters in this. So that is Jason London playing Pink there, Randall Pink Floyd, or Randy Floyd, and his on again, off again girlfriend Simone there. I've got some messages on Messenger. I'll have to check those later. So we got Rory Calhoun there. Or not Rory Calhoun, Rory Cochran. Dang, people. Playing Slater there, who is constantly on something. So there's Marisa Ribisi there, the redhead. And she looks like, I was watching this video where they were showing what the people look like in 1993 and what they look like in, like, what was it, 2021 or whatever. And my gosh, she looks totally different. In fact, she looks better than she does on this movie. So I always thought this was funny where Tony was telling his friend about this dream he had about getting it on with some chick with a perfect body, and she had the head of Abraham Lincoln. I don't know if that has anything to do with drug use, why you would have a dream like that, but I don't know if any high schools ever did this. That would make you want to sign something to play a particular sport that says you won't engage in any, you know, taking any drugs or drinking any alcohol that would jeopardize the upcoming, in this case, football season. Um, and so Pink's friend is telling him, Don, he's telling him, you just sign it, you don't think about it anymore. But Pink thinks, yeah, if I sign this, these yahoos are gonna think that I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna smoke any grass, I'm not gonna ever drink, on and on and on. Um, I remember those. For those of you that are watching, that thing that has the construction paper or the that's probably not construction paper. It's actually paper that they're putting on the bulletin boards. But I remember those things. Those things were still around when I was in school. I don't know about you guys and gals, but I never heard that Gilligan's Island was the male pornographic fantasy. I know that my mom did engage in smoking cigarettes in the bathroom when she was in high school because they didn't have a smoking area at the high school back in those days. That's right, Batman. Brady is in this from Halloween 4. Um, so so did I. What did you smoke in the bathrooms in high school, Uncle Bill? I forgot. At one time you did used to smoke, didn't you? So, by the way, Uncle Bill, did you have a good Father's Day today? Did you get a lot of presents and stuff like that? Now, Cole Hauser there, the guy that's talking, I think he was only 18 at the time of this movie was made. It was the 90s, everybody smoked. Well, I didn't smoke in the 90s. I never had the urge to smoke cigarettes. I'm not putting anybody down for smoking, but I just never had that urge to want to smoke. My mom did. My mom told me all the time I was growing up, mom said, "Now, I don't want you to smoke," but she said, "I always wanted to smoke." And so, she, of course, did the sneaking around and smoking. And um, oh, that's awesome, Uncle Bill. You say I did actually went out, Savannah and the kids got me a Creep Show Father's Day cake. I think that is completely awesome. Batman, you smoked when you were like 10. I mean, I'm sure if I had had that urge or that drive to want to smoke, I mean, I'm sure I would have been doing those things. It was just one of those things that I just, I didn't care, one way or the other. But I had friends that I grew up with that smoked. Uh, Both of my parents smoked at one time. My dad quit a long time ago. And I've always said I wish my mom could quit for health, for good health. Um, Sorry about that. Um, but dad, years and years and years ago, he just said, "I quit." He crumpled up the pack of cigarettes and, threw them away. And he never went back. Um, I'm very proud of my dad. And my mom's tried to quit, but I think it's one of those things where if you want to quit bad enough, and I don't think she wanted to quit bad enough. And that's not saying anything bad about her. It's just saying I don't think she really wanted to quit. Dad was adamant that he wanted to quit. And, I've also never, I've never smoked marijuana. I know people that have. And I don't put anybody down for smoking marijuana. Now, I've tried the edibles and they're just not my thing. But again, that's something that people partake of. Um, and that they enjoy. And if you enjoy it, okay, and you're doing it in the privacy of your own home, and you're not getting out and driving a motor vehicle intoxicated. Same for drinking. You know, if you can do it sitting at home, not get it behind the wheel, okay. Now some of the harder stuff, like cocaine and stuff like that kind of stuff I wouldn't recommend to anybody. But again, I won't put anybody down for doing it. Um, Batman, you say you quit because the teacher said that I stunk like smoke and were threatening my mother with CPS to take me away. Well, yeah, that would probably be a good reason to quit. I believe the guy playing Don, I believe that's Sasha Jensen. I believe it's his name, his real name. Um, and I believe he was 29 years old at the time that this was made. And as Batman said, that he was in Halloween 4 playing Brady. And there is not there, but there in the Adidas shirt is Wiley Wiggins. I believe is how you pronounce that. Um, he looks totally different too nowadays. I like this teacher that they they want to, get out of class early. There's no way their teacher's going to let them out of class early. Um, Now, maybe this was something that that person was talking about, that no high school, this movie was ridiculous because no high schools were ever like this. I mean, I'm sure there were some teachers that kind of stretched things a little bit. You heard that teacher. She was a young teacher, obviously, and she said, it's the most bitching time I ever had in my life. I had teachers that would talk that way, even when I was in high school. Batman, you said that's his name. Um, you say he has a great cameo in Grind as a skate shop owner and clerk. I've never seen Grind. I mean, that's one of those movies that I've heard of, but I never have seen it before. So if you are listening to the audio and the soundtrack, Alice Cooper's "School's Out" is playing, which is one of those songs that I just love. Um, I'm sure a lot of you guys and gals out there do too. So these boys that are getting ready to go into high school after the summer, part of their hazing is they get paddled by the incoming seniors. And again, I'm not sure when that person said this was a ridiculous movie. I don't know if they were referring to this hazing that's going on. But all schools are not the same. And like I said, I came from a very small area, a small town. It was a small school. I don't know what would, how could anybody know about every high school in the United States and what they've done over the years? Wally Wiggins, yeah, I mean, his hair is, sort of girlish. And so, what the incoming seniors are doing to these freshman girls is, they're, first of all, they're making them have pacifiers in their mouth, and they're apparently trying to recruit this character here, Sabrina. So the boys are some of the main boys here are trying to get away from the group of incoming seniors there. And Ben Affleck there, the guy that plays O'Banion in the movie, is a very young Ben Affleck, but he's the biggest asshole in this movie. In fact, they say he flunked, and some people said it, he did it so he could be a jerk 2 years in a row. How old was I when I first saw this movie, Uncle Bill? I'm trying to think. Because I don't think I watched it when it first came out. I think I watched it a few years later. And see, I graduated in 1994. This came out in 1993. Oh, so Lord, I'm trying to remember when I saw it exactly. It might have been the 2000s before I actually saw this. I don't know how or why I missed some of these movies, but I was just a little, for whatever reason, they slipped under my radar. It was either really late 90s or early 2000s when I actually saw this. So If I was 18 in 94, then we'd have to, do some math there. I was probably in my 20s at least by the time I saw this. I'm sure some of y'all out there were younger than that, though. I was either early to mid 20s, I'd say. And that was not because my parents let me watch pretty much whatever I wanted to watch um, growing up. And if I was, especially if I was 16 through 18, they're not going to say anything about what I watched. And there's Parker Posey, or as Steve likes to call her, Parker Pokey, playing Darla, who appears to be the queen bitch of these incoming seniors. That's not good, Uncle Bill. Um, so you saw this movie about a month before you entered high school, and you thought for sure the seniors would beat me to death. Oh man. If not funny, I mean that you thought that seniors were going to beat you to death. But I mean, it's funny when we think back on it now because obviously they didn't do this to you. Now, I would probably be a big wuss and would probably not do this. Um, because they put a bunch of crap all over these girls, oatmeal, eggs, ketchup, mustard, and then they're subjecting them to more humiliation by putting collars and leashes on them and bringing them up to the incoming senior boys. And, they have to ask these boys, will you marry me? And they're like, I don't know what's in it for me. And so the one girl comes up to Don and she says, will you marry me? And he's like, well, what's in it for me? And she's like, anything you like. And he says, go like this. And she does. And these are young girls. They don't, I would have probably been naive at that point too. And he said, do you spit or swallow? And she's like, anything you like. And his on again, off again girlfriend says, you're an asshole. It leads that girl off. Uncle Bill, you say it's kind of funny because nothing at all happened. Yeah, like I would say most of us, if not all of us, that frequent, each other's channels and stuff like that, um, that nothing happened when we entered into high school. But what I was thinking is some of these bigger high schools, bigger city high schools, who knows what went on in those? Gang, I'm not gonna take myself out of the stream, but I'm gonna set this plate in here. I like the little nuances there. You see that Alfred Hitchcock's family plot, which may have been Hitchcock's final movie, or it was one of his final movies, I know, was apparently playing at that during that time period that this is supposed to take place. So I don't think I would like this either. After degrading these girls and covering them in crap and stuff, um, they take them through a car wash in the back of pickup trucks. Like, something tells me that's not very safe. That water's got to be super hot, and there's probably wax and, you know, so Kevin, one of the main characters, his parents are getting ready to go out of town, and Kevin has planned a big party at his house. And so, you know, Pink and Slater are coming over to hang out with Kevin and his girlfriend and smoke some pot and stuff like that. So, and plan for this big party. And so Sabrina here is getting invited to hang out with the big kids now. She's been indoctrined into this group. Now, we'll see that not all the girls and not all the boys get this to happen. So Sabrina and Mitch are the boy and girls that get kind of indoctrinated into the cool kids club, the older kids club. I wish they still had chairs like that, like what Kevin and his girlfriend are sitting in there. They may not have been practical, but they're cool looking. So now they're having to hide all the marijuana and stuff because Kevin's dad is saying, you better come out here. And we're going to see why here in a second. So, like I said, Kevin was planning this big party. And his dad saying, "Did you order some kegs of beer?" Because there's a guy in a beer truck that says he did. And he was not supposed to come until later. Hey, Candace. Candace said, talking about going through car washes, Sands vehicle. My cousin told me the story of this girl that she went to high school with, and that a bunch of classmates talked her into going through. Oh my gosh. Well, so apparently it has happened. So this guy, the beer guy, it showed up an hour and a half early, and Kevin's like making all kinds of motions and saying, "So I guess wrong address." He's giving that guy the eye, and he's like, "Oh yeah, wrong, Mr. Pickford altogether." And so Dad is on to him now, and Dad says to Kevin's mom, "Start unpacking. We're not going anywhere." So party is busted, basically. And Mitch and his friends are still trying to avoid the incoming seniors beating the hell out of them with paddles. And again, if you're listening to the soundtrack and the audio in the comfort of your own home, you were hearing or are hearing now Free Ride. I told you this had an awesome soundtrack. And there's my man. If you're watching along, there was my man, Matthew McConaughey. I love that guy. But Candace, you said they talked her into going through an automatic car wash. The girl was locked in and was screaming bloody murder. She came out all black, blue, and bloody with half of her hair pulled out. Stupid is and stupid does exactly. That's okay, Candace. I know, or I think I knew that there was a limit to how much you could type at one time on here, so that's fine. I never participated in much of this, going out cruising with friends. I just wasn't a very a social person when I was in high school. But my parents did. I mean, my mom was as shy as could be. She was shy, just like me growing up. And, she said her first date with my dad, even dad said, yeah, all she did was giggle, and she wouldn't eat anything and all that stuff. It's like, well, by the time I started dating, when I dated Steve, I ate. I was not going to go without eating. Batman, you said 1/6 of the budget was spent on acquiring the rights to 1970s pop hits on the soundtrack. I wouldn't doubt that at all. But my mom and dad would go out on the weekends and stuff like that, Friday evenings into the weekends. That's when people went out cruising. They'd get in their cars, a bunch of friends get together, or, a guy and a girl would go to the drive-in or something like that. It was just that time period. That was what you did. Um, and there were a lot of things. Mom said there were a lot of things for them to do around their own hometown too. There was a place called the Go Post. I think the Go Post is still open in Lewisport, which is one of the little bitty towns that made up my county, Hancock County. There was Hallsville and there was Lewisport. Y'all getting a little history lesson on where I grew up. And I think the Go Post is still open in Lewisport, but it's not the same as it was back in the 70s when my mom and dad were going there. It was basically a pool hall back in those days. And there was a roller skating rink, my mom said, and it was like, and there may have even been a bowling alley as well, but those things are long gone now. But I always like hearing my mom tell stories about that time period. So Mitch is about to get the hell beat out of him right now. And to me, this is quintessential old people. I'm getting old now too, but I'm not quite this old yet. Where the old people come around, the sports stars and stuff, and we're counting on you boys and stuff like that. I mean, that's typical hometown, the older generation, how they act. And I think that's how they act, you know, all over, pretty much. And see, I was born in 1976, so I was a bicentennial baby. There were other babies born in 76 too, but I was born June 6, 1976. There's a lot of sixes. I'm just thankful I wasn't born in 66 because it would have been like 666. So we're seeing that Mitch is getting the hell. His ass is taking a big whipping or whooping or however you want to say it. But oddly, his ass looks like it's got some padding in it. So we're hearing another Alice Cooper song here. If you're listening to the soundtrack, for No More Mr. Nice Guy by Alice Cooper. So Pink is late to the game for this paddling. And everybody's going up to the Emporium, which is basically a pool hall where people drink and hang out and stuff. So O'Banion, like I said, he's the big asshole of the group. These other guys are just they're basically they went through this. They're going to make sure the new incoming freshmen are going through this. But Pink takes it easy on Mitch and just barely taps him here. So Jody, Mitch's sister, was the one that was real nice to Sabrina and asked her if she wanted to hang out with everybody. Now, Pink's going to do the same thing for Mitch. He's, says, "You need a ride?" And he said, "Yeah, because the other guys left me." And Pink says, "Yeah, there's always one senior that has to be the badass." And he said he thinks Albania is going to be the first senior to do it 2 years in a row. And Pink also admits, has to admit that Albania is kind of a joke, even amongst his friends. And then, Mitch says, "Did you get it bad when you were a freshman?" And he said, "Yeah, they waited for my ass after practice and it was vicious." And he tells him, it's better to get them a bunch all at once because by about 10 licks, your ass gets so numb that you don't feel it anymore. And then he said, a lot of times you'll have some really cool seniors that will take you out and get you drunk afterwards. And so then Pink says, since the party's not going on, we'll just probably, me and some of the guys will hang out. Do you want to come hang out with us? And I think everybody has probably went through this where at some point in your life you finally feel like you're part of something. You're part of some group. Even if it's not the most popular group, you feel like you finally fit in. And I think that's what the Mitch character and the Sabrina character in particular are going through in this movie. Um, I didn't feel like I was part of anything until much, much later. When I started spending more time at horror conventions and meeting the crowd, that I still hang out with a lot of them to this day when I go to horror conventions. Um, when I started doing that, I was like, okay, I finally feel like I fit in. Some people do that earlier. They do that in high school or even earlier. But I think eventually all of us fall into a little niche where it feels like home. It feels comfortable. Now we're hearing the song Lowrider. And Mike is telling them, I've been talking about being an ACLU lawyer and all this stuff. And he says, he was standing in line at the post office the other day, and people were looking really pathetic, to use his word. Um, and he realized he just didn't want to do it. Keep in mind he's probably been partaking of some weed here. Um, he said, I don't think I like people, period. He said, you guys are okay. And Tony said, what are you going to do then if you're not going to go to law school? He says, I want to dance. So Mitch has got his cool duds on, and he's going to join the big boys. Well, actually, he's joining Pink and Wooderson right now. I will say that this, in my opinion, is not the best look for Matthew McConaughey, but I still like the character. The character's still cool. Yeah, that is interesting, Batman. I didn't think about it in those terms. But Lowrider's a song done by a black band, but it's connected to Mexicans. And if you don't believe that, if you watch Cheech and Chong movies, in particular, is it Up in Smoke? I think it's Up in Smoke that Lowrider is playing. So they are inside the Emporium. And it's, like I said, it's basically, the Emporium's basically a pool hall. Pool was king back in these days, and Kevin, or Pickford as they call him, Wooderson saying, bummer about your party, man. So Mitch is getting introduced to this cute chick here. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Batman, you say it's also the theme to George Lopez TV show. So Mitch is interested in this chick. And he's asking what grade she's in, and Pink's telling him she's a sophomore. So here's the kiss statues, and Kevin's girlfriend, Michelle, created them mostly. So this phrase comes up, "Are you cool, man?" And Mitch doesn't know what that means, and Pink said he was just asking if you get high. And Mitch says, I never have before, but people got some cool ass cars on this movie too. Or most people do. So they still think the party's going on. Tony and Mike and Cynthia there. Oh, does anybody remember 8-tracks? I remember 8-tracks. I remember finding my parents' 8-tracks and their 8-track player, which, believe it or not, still worked at the time that I found it. And I just became enamored of all, this music that I could listen to. It probably explains a whole lot why I still like classic rock music, because I grew up listening to my parents' 8-tracks. Now they listen to country too, but country never really was my thing. So these guys think they know about chicks too. Batman, you say, last year I went on a George Lopez binge. I would come home from work, play PS4 or PS5, and listen to the show. Yeah, I sometimes, and I've attributed this to me being on autopilot sometimes I'll just put something on and I'll have it in the background and I'll be listening to it. But I'm not really, like, if it's a show or something, I'm not really watching it, but I'm listening to it. So this this party that it's obviously a middle school party, and it reminds me, or a middle school dance rather, uh, at the school. But I would think that the chaperones would find all these people in this little makeout room, but But the dancing part of it reminded me a lot of the school dances I went to in middle school. Oh yeah, that's fun. Make fun of your friend because you're not getting any. And there were a lot of these hamburger places back in the 70s too, because I know my mom would always talk about that. These, drive-in hamburger joints. So Hirschfelder here is about to get his ass whacked. The Squeal Like a Pig line, which is right out of Deliverance.
My! Ew! I wasn't ready for that!
So apparently, Poe wasn't ready for these paddling scenes here, which is still going on there. Steve always thinks that this is cool, even now that he doesn't drink like he once did. But he says that whole trunk full of beer is pretty cool. I always like this scene too, where Wooderson is talking about cars, and he's talking about how his car is better than Clint's. And Clint in the black shirt is played by Nikki Cat, who sadly Nikki Cat um, passed away kind of recently. I want to say it was suicide, but I can't really remember at this point. I don't want to be telling tales out of school, but in any event, it's still sad. So people always laugh because Wally Wiggins, I don't know if this was something he did or something he was told to do, but he does this thing where he grabs his nose um, when somebody tells him something bad or something. He done it like 3 or 4 times in a row there. And there is the character of Jody playing Mitch's older sister there. There he did that nose thing again. So this movie moves pretty fast as well. We're almost an hour in, and this gal's going to have to take a restroom break. So, for those of you that are still in here with me and still following along, I'm going to remove myself from the stream for just a little bit, and I will be right back. Okay, gang, I'm back again. So we see that Mitch is apparently smoking his first joint, and they're sort of playing mailbox baseball. I call it mailbox baseball because I think of Stand By Me, but they're actually, instead of hitting these mailboxes with baseball bats, they're hitting them with trash cans. So this is something that I think this is where there's a goof. So when you see Pink actually, see, that's not Pink's arm. I think that was actually Sasha Jensen's arms there. If you look close, that is not the clothing that Pink had on. So now they want Mitch to throw the bowling ball. And Pink says, "Come on, you're playing with the big boys now." And they call him a like a sissy pussy freshman throw it, and he does, and it goes crashes through a car windshield. So now they all of a sudden they think he's cool because he did that. Now I'm not advocating that people go out and do something that foolhardy. So now they, you know, they're letting on like they're going to steal stuff. And this is all to try to fool Mitch into thinking they're going to hoist some beer from this convenience store, which they had no intention of doing. They might bust mailboxes, but they're not going to steal. And cigarettes were 60 cents, folks, 60 cents, which was probably a lot back then, but beer was $1.69. I mean, it's outrageous. Okay, so you're seeing somebody pull up. This old dude's getting out with a gun. Apparently, um, he would probably refer to himself as a patriot, in these times. But they busted his brightly decorated mailbox, and he's like telling them, that's a felony offense. And this guy's probably a little drunk too. He said, "I done called the police, but he says, I think you boys ought to get out of the car." And they're getting the hell out of there. And this guy actually shoots at them. And now, again, if you're listening to the soundtrack, you're hearing Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo, which is another one of the songs from the times. Oh, I love me some pinball. That's one of the few games that I can play that I'm any good at. I love that sign back there that, you know, it's illegal for those under the age of 18 to consume alcohol on these premises. So we see they've sent Mitch to get a 6-pack or a sixer as they call it. And that's not good. We see a pregnant, visibly pregnant woman smoking cigarettes and buying alcohol. And so Mitch is clearly underage, but this guy, all he does, he says, "You're 18, right?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah." He doesn't ask for an ID. These were the days, folks. So his friends come around and they want to know what's in the bag. And he's just like, he's playing it coy. He's like, "Ah, Sixer." And they said, "Oh, you're over at the Emporium?" And they ask about O'Banion. And so they're going to cook up something to get O'Banion back for all the crap he's put them through. So now we're hearing the song Slow Ride. You have free ride and slow ride. And the girls are impressed that they sewed a Sixer to Mitch there. So apparently, Wooderson and his pool partner there have won. So they're going to have a party out at the Moon Tower now since Kevin's party was busted. So Mitch has got a good idea, and he's going up to the girl that he's, taking a shine to, and getting her in on the ruse to, play a little trick on O'Banion there. So they're luring O'Banion out there because they're saying, Carl Burnett's getting busted out back, as a way to get O'Banion out there, because Carl Burnett's one that he's kept missing, and he wants to get him. So Dawn is telling Mitch that Julie chick, she's really into you, but you got to act like you're not into her as much as you obviously are. So they've tricked O'Banion into getting out there, and then they're going to pour paint on him. And O'Banion is none too thrilled about this. So O'Banion's going ape on everybody now. He's got to throw his little shit fit here. So there's the all right, all right, all right line there. Got more Wooderson here. He's telling Cynthia and Mike and Tony that there's a new fiesta. They're going to be having a party out at the Moon Tower. And Wooderson, he likes these high school girls. And of course, Tony and Mike think that Wooderson's creepy, but Cynthia thinks he's cute. And they said, "Do you realize when he graduated, we were 3 years old?" Now we're getting a little Kiss playing. If you're listening to the soundtrack. I always thought that guy back there with the long hair, the long blondish colored hair, looked like Elton John. So Mike has his first run in with Clint here. He says something about someone's toking some reefer, and that sets Clint off. So Clint apparently is one of those guys that has a hair trigger temper. And you say the least little thing, even if you're not directing it towards him, he's going to get upset. And Clint's taking his shirt off and threatening to fight Mike. And this is going to come to a head later, but Pink managed to stop it before it got any worse at this point. So they're all the guys are teasing Mitch about climbing up on this moon tower. Nothing's ever been repaired. They built this when they were building the power plant. So Mike says now he's going to get Clint. He says, I got it all planned out because most fights in a place like they're in never get past a punch or two. So he says, I'll get in one good punch and it'll be done. And for a movie, that's rated R, there's not really any nudity. There's no boobies, guys and gals.
Said boobies.
Yeah, I did, Poe.
Can you say boobies on YouTube?
Apparently you can, Poe. I told y'all that Poe would pop in here from time to time because he's joining me for this watch along. So Dawn says, "Oh, look, it's the cops," and everybody runs away from the keg, and he's got free reign. I did not. I didn't get a chance to see that yet, Batman. And we see that Mitch is consuming a little too much alcohol there. So Benny's got pink cologne, and he said, I wanted to get you alone and talk to you about you quitting football. And, he says it just this pledge, and then Benny's gonna say, you're gonna be fucking us all over if you quit. Lay on the guilt there. So that's one of the things, and I think this is true. When people drink so much alcohol, their inhibitions go down. I'm not trying to get weird or too serious here. But I've been around people that sometimes they say pretty hurtful things when they've been drinking too much. Sorry, gang. I've heard him do that impression of Tom Matthews before. It's pretty hilarious. And two, I like this. It didn't seem like when I was in school that people did this, that the people didn't mix. You know, like you see Pink hanging out with Cynthia and Jody, and I think that one girl's name is Kay. And then you'll see them hanging around with their gang, and then you'll see people separating, like you're seeing Pink and Jody going out in the woods together, and you may be thinking, well, wait a minute, Pink was with Simone. And then you got Slater and Kevin, and I don't know who this guy is. They're, you know, people split off and they come back together, and all of that. And it just didn't seem like when I was growing up, especially when I was in high school, that people did that. They pretty much stuck to their own groupings or whatever, like the real popular people did, and the athletes and stuff like that, the jocks didn't mix with my crowd, really. They may have been nice to us, but they didn't mix with us. They didn't hang out with us. So Jody was coming on to Pink, and then when Pink reciprocates and starts making out with her more, she's like, "Whoa, wait a minute! Don't you have a girlfriend? What's her name? Simone." So now they're going to laugh at Mitch because he's hanging out with Julie. And they're like, "Come on, freshman, come on over here." So Dawn and Mel and Pink, although Pink's not, you know, doing as much. And they said, Mel says, "Are you going to be fucking that later? Or are you going to be a little wimp?" And he's like, "How do you know I haven't already?" And then they all laugh and say, "Get out of here. I think it's past your bedtime." And then Pink tells him, you know, get a ride with her. Say we left you, that it'll work. And Darla is, you know, she's three sheets to the wind there. And Darla is like I said, she's the queen bitch of the incoming freshman girls, or incoming senior girls, I should say. And she's, you know, wanting Sabrina to do the air raid thing. And Tony says, "Hey, darling, cut it out. She doesn't have to do air raid because she's with me." And then Mike comes over. He's like, don't air raid for that bitch. And he's like losing it. And Tony's like, "God, what is wrong with everybody?" So Mike is good. Oh, bad move, Mike. Mike pours alcohol over Clint's head and then punches him. And Clint's going to beat the hell out of him here if somebody doesn't stop. So this pretty much busts up the party here because Wooderson and Pink come in and drag Clint off of poor Mike there. So they're out of beer. No more beer in the kegs. And Jody catches Mitch leaving the party with alcohol. And Jody tells him, don't think when you get home that mom's not going to be waiting up for you. So you can tell that Benny and Mel there have had quite a bit of alcohol. And apparently Cynthia is giving Wooderson her number. So Simone is back because Jody left Pink's ass. And so we're getting down to pretty much the main group that we're going to end up with towards the end of this film. And we are, I'd say, about the last quarter of the film. So they're all wasted and they're on the football field. So apparently Wooderson played football as well when he was in school. And Wooderson is the example of a character, even though you like him, he's basically the washed up character who's trying to relive his youth through these kids that are in high school. That's why he keeps wanting to get these high school girls. And he says the line, you know, that's the thing I like about these high school girls. I get older, they stay the same age. It's a way to try to keep himself young, I suppose. I mean, he's a likable character. I'm not saying that, but we all know people like that. So Mike is wanting Cynthia to tell him, I didn't get my ass kicked, right? And she said, no. And after a couple of years, people won't even remember really who won or lost because she's being a friend. She's trying to make him feel better. And so there's going to be a little romantic moment between Tony and Sabrina here. And I believe, what is it, Natasha Enjoy, or however you pronounce her name, um, playing Sabrina here. I believe she was 18 at the time too, and she's playing a little bit younger. I mean, you say if they're 18, I can understand it, but younger than that, yeah, that would not be good. And I think it'd probably be safe to say that the Wooderson character is not going. I mean, he might be going after 17-year-olds, but I don't think he's going after any younger than that. I get the feeling because this is not that kind of movie. So here's that line that Batman reminded me of: the older you do get, the more rules they're gonna try to make for you. You just got to keep living, man. Livin. And Slater says you should throw a little grass in paper, roll it up, give it to them as a joint after you sign it. So even though, Don adds on the dogged as many chicks as I could while I was stuck in this place, he does make a good point, and I think this is something everybody tries to do when they're kind of trying to break free of their own hometowns, is that I did the best I could while I was stuck in this place. And isn't that all anybody can can say? I know some people do stay in their hometowns, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're itching to get out, um, I know I was itching to get out of my small hometown. Now I wish I could go back. I don't want to not be with my husband, but I came from a very small place to a much larger place in Louisville, and sometimes your priorities are in a different mindset. I guess is the best way to say that. And then you find out sometimes, even though if you get married, you got kids, and you leave where you grew up and you go somewhere else. Um, you may still long for the simplicity of how things were when you were younger. And we see Mitch is having a little fun with Julie. I mean, obviously, there's no nudity or anything. So the coach is wanting to talk to Pink and Dawn here. He says, "Why am I getting wake up calls from the cops?" So the coach is gonna, be hard on Pink again. So again, the coach wants Pink to sign his commitment to his team, and he says, "Have you done that yet?" And Pink says, "I'm still thinking about it." He said, "No one's paying you to think about it, son. Just do it." And Pink says, "Me and my loser friends, we got to go get Aerosmith tickets, top priority of the summer." And he says, "Oh, I forgot. I might play ball, but I will never sign that." And he wads up the paper and throws it at the coach. And I think that pretty much says it all there. Dazed and Confused or Fast Times. As much, again, Uncle Bill, as much as I like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, I think out of the two, Dazed and Confused is my favorite. Even though, Fast Times at Ridgemont High was supposed to be a realistic portrayal, because Cameron Crowe actually, because he looks so young, he put himself into a real high school and sat in and he listened to conversations and stuff like that. Um, I just, I don't know. There's something a little bit more lighthearted, I think, about Dazed and Confused. Um, Fast Times at Ridgemont High deals with some really heavy topics at times. Abortion, for one. And so, as much as I like it, this one is a little bit more enjoyable for me. So Mitch is back home, and his mom said, she's asking questions. "Who's this older girl that gave you a ride?" And she's like, "Have you been drinking?" And he's like, "No." And she's like, "Are you drunk?" And he's like, "Yeah, like, yeah, I'm really drunk, Mom." And she leaves and he puts his headphones on. And Slow Ride's playing again. And I always have liked uh, these end credits, which we're getting ready to see, where they actually show the people in the movie, a lot of the main characters, and they show the real name, the actor or actress's real name there. I just think that's a fun way to end movies of this type. So it's like it's fading to just go into the credits. But then it says cast of characters in order of appearance, and we get some actual video. We're seeing Jason London, Joey Lauren Adams, Mila Jovovich, Sean Andrews, who played Pickford, Rory Cochrane, who played Slater, Adam Goldberg played Mike, Anthony Rapp played Tony, Sasha Jensen played Dawn, Marissa Ribisi played Cynthia, Dina Martin played Siobhan, Michelle Burke, Jody. There's Cole Hauser playing Benny, and Christine Harnos is Kay. Wiley Wiggins is Mitch. I won't read every one of these off, but you get the idea. And as always, folks, I'll stay with y'all until the credits completely roll. But I hope that you guys and gals, we had a pretty good group here most of the time, and I appreciate y'all joining me for this watch along for Dazed and Confused. I've enjoyed it. I hope you guys and gals have been, those of you that were watching along tonight, or maybe if you weren't watching along, if you were just listening to me talk about the movie, I hope you enjoyed it. I had a really good time with this one. This is probably going to be one of my favorite ones. And, although I would like to see more people in here like I used to have, I mean, it's still good that you guys show up and we've had a pretty active chat tonight, and I appreciate all of that. Um, and just remember, I am open to having people on live on the stream with me, not just for these watch alongs, but for other live streams I do. All you got to do is ask. And, like I said, the only prerequisite is that you behave yourself on here. And, I've explained that, we can curse a little bit. These are not marked for kids. But, no explicit stuff like I've said before. Don't be taking your clothes off or showing certain body parts that you shouldn't be showing in public. Don't be, don't be a dick to me. Don't be a dick to other people that are either live on the stream or in the chat. And we won't have any problems, folks. So, I'm not going to make a specific set of rules, but those are rules that I think anybody would want to have if, they don't want to see people get harassed and made fun of on here. They don't want to see people taking their clothes off on camera. They don't want somebody being explicit and showing certain body parts that they don't have any business showing in public. So enough about that. But we're seeing a lot of the songs that were in the movie: Sweet Emotion, Highway Star, Schools Out, Jim Dandy, Stranglehold, No More Mr. Nice Guy, Free Ride. I mean, the list goes on and on. Like I said, this movie had a fantastic soundtrack, in my opinion, and I'm sure they paid a lot of money for these songs. I mean, there's stuff by Kiss, there's stuff by ZZ Top, Joan Jett, um, Seals and Croft, Leonard Skinner. I mean, the list goes on and on. This was filmed on location in Austin, Texas. And as I said, the copyright is 1993 on this particular film. Sometimes I don't think about how old a film is until I see that copyright date there, and I'm like, wow. All right, gang. So I guess that is all for me for tonight. Again, thank you guys and gals for showing up and hanging out with me as we watched Dazed and Confused. Like I said, one of my favorite movies of all time. Definitely a favorite summertime movie. But I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And as always, I'm off like a dirty shirt. This shirt ain't dirty, but I'm off like one. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do before I get off of here for the night, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Thank you, Batman. You say, great stream, Dazed and Confused. Dazed and Confused, that like button. That's right. Thank you, Batman. Appreciate that. And I'm out of here for now, but I want to again say Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, whether you have human children or furry children or scaly children or whatever kind of children you have. You're still a dad. And happy Father's Day to you all, and happy Father's Day to those dads that have went on to the great hereafter. And God bless you guys. And I'm out of here for now, but I'll see everybody next time.